The fox showed up the same week the first trailer went dark. It was a small park on the edge of a small town, the kind of place that did not show up on postcards. 2 rows of trailers facing each other, a gravel road between them, a strip of brown grass behind. Everyone had the same view: dust, sky, and the next door over. At night, the only bright things were the porch lights. They were all different. One was cold and blue. One was a warm, round bulb with dead bugs inside. One was a string of plastic stars that blinked out of order. Some people left theirs on all night. Some only turned them on when they were waiting for someone. The fox came from the field behind the far fence, a thin red shape, quick and careful. It slipped under a loose board and sat down on the cinder blocks near the laundry room. From there, it could see every door. Most nights, it just watched. It watched the woman in number 3 carry her laundry basket. It watched the man in number 7 smoke on his steps and throw his butts into a coffee can. It watched kids leave bikes in the road, then yank them out of the way when a truck came. The fox kept its distance. No one ever saw it close. It sat and blinked and watched the porch lights burn. The first dark door was number 5. Number 5 had been there the longest. Old white trailer, metal siding streaked with rust. The woman inside it was named Ruth. Everyone knew Ruth, or thought they did. She had bright silver hair and walked with a slow, steady step. She always had time to lend someone sugar or sit with someone's kid. She also had a rule. Her porch light was never off after sunset. Even when she forgot other things, she remembered that. It was one of those things people did without thinking. The light came on at dusk. It went off after dawn. The bulb burned out. She replaced it. Simple. One Monday, just after the fox began to watch the park, the light on number 5 stayed dark. The sun went down. The sky went navy blue. One by one, clicks and hums ran up the row as porch lights snapped on. A warm glow over number 1. A pale blue square over number 2. A row of tired yellow halos down the gravel road. Number 5 stayed black. People noticed. It was hard not to. The dark square in the line pulled the eye. Someone said maybe the bulb had finally blown. Someone else said maybe Ruth had gone to visit her sister. The stories rolled around like cans in the back of a truck. The fox watched the empty steps of number 5. It watched the closed door. It watched the porch light that did not wake up. 2 days later, an ambulance came. No siren, no lights, just a slow roll into the park in early morning gray. Paramedics went into number 5 and came out again with nothing in their hands. By noon, everyone knew. Ruth had died in her sleep. It had been peaceful, people said, like that made a difference to the empty. The porch light at number 5 never came on again. Someone asked the park manager why he did not turn it on. He shrugged. He said he was waiting on the family. He said there were forms. He said a lot of things that all meant the same. She was gone. That night, from the laundry room, cinder blocks, the fox watched the dark doorway. It became a kind of story at the park. The light went out. Ruth went out. People like to tie things together. It made the world feel neater. If it had only happened once, maybe the story would have died. It happened again. Number 11 was a man named Curtis. He lived alone with a loud TV and a quieter fridge. Some nights, he sat on his steps with a beer and told anyone who listened that he was going to leave this place soon. He had plans, big ones. No one believed him. People said that kind of thing all the time in the park. Most of them stayed until something pushed them out. A notice, a health scare, a fire. Curtis had a bright porch light. It was new and too strong, one of those white lights that made everything look a little harsh. He liked it on. He said it made the place look safer. Then he met a woman in town. He started spending more evenings away. Fewer beers on the steps, more shirts tucked in. He talked less about leaving and did more quiet math at his kitchen table. One evening, the park watched his pickup roll out the gate, with the bed stacked high. Mattress, chairs, boxes, everything tied down with rope. By sunset, the trailer at number 11 was empty. The fox watched from its spot by the laundry room. It saw the shadowed shape of the manager walk up to the steps of number 11 and try the doorknob. The door opened on a hollow space. The manager stepped inside, stayed a while, then came back out. When he reached up, everyone assumed he would twist the porch light off in that rough way he had. Instead, he toggled the switch and left. The light did not come on. The fox watched the bulb stay dark in the rising night. The pattern took a while to settle into people's minds. First, it was only a trick of memory. Someone thought they remembered number 8 being bright, but now it was out. Someone else swore that number 2 had flickered for weeks and then gone black the day before the for sale sign appeared. There were always other reasons. Wiring went bad. People forgot to pay the bill. Bulbs burned out. Nothing mysterious. The park was old and tired. It made sense that its parts would fail at the same time as its people. Even so, a quiet rule was born. If a porch light went dark and stayed dark, it meant the trailer was getting ready to lose someone. The fox, being a fox, did not care about rules. It cared about patterns. It saw the rhythm the way it saw the daily dance of garbage cans and pickup trucks. It watched the doors that stayed bright and the ones that did not. Its yellow eyes slid from bulb to bulb, from shadow to shadow. One person who noticed the fox was Nina. Nina lived in number 9 with her son, Jamie. Her trailer was a faded blue, the kind of color that might once have been cheerful before too many summers burned it out. Her porch light worked when it wanted to. The previous tenant had wired it badly, and the connection was loose. Sometimes it flickered, sometimes it buzzed, sometimes it decided not to come on at all. Nina had added "fix light" to the long, growing list in her notebook and then circled more urgent things. She worked nights at the grocery store and slept in bits and pieces. Her main job, as far as she was concerned, was making sure Jamie had things she did not have at his age. School lunches, clean shoes, a mother who stayed. Jamie collected stories the way other kids collected plastic toys. He brought them home from school, from the internet, from people at the laundromat. Ghost stories, urban legends, tales of strange animals that knew too much. One night, he came home buzzing with a new one. He said the fox could tell the future. He said the fox knew who was leaving the park. He said if your porch light went out and the fox sat in front of your trailer, it meant you were next. Nina told him to stop talking like that. She said lights broke all the time. She said foxes were just animals. She said it in the calm, flat voice she used when she herself was not calm at all. She knew what it was to have to leave somewhere in a hurry. That night, when she came home from the late shift, she parked under the one working street lamp, climbed the steps to number 9, and reached for her porch light switch. Nothing happened. No hum, no buzz, no tired yellow circle. She flicked it again. Still nothing. Her throat went dry in a way she hated. It was stupid. She knew it was stupid. The wiring was bad. That was all. It had been bad for months. She told herself that as she dug out her phone and used its screen to see the lock. She told herself that as she closed the door behind her and locked it twice. She told herself that as she leaned her back against the inside of the door for a second, listening to Jamie's soft snore from the bedroom. In the dark outside, the fox sat on the gravel and watched the black face of number 9. The rumors in the park swelled. Someone said they had seen the fox pause in front of number 4 the week before the man there was evicted. Someone else swore the porch light on number 12 had flickered every night before the owner packed his things into a moving van and left at dawn. Maybe the fox is the one making people leave, a woman in the laundry room said. She was half joking, half not. Maybe the lights are trying to warn us, another said, folding towels. Like, get ready, you're next. No one said out loud what Nina was thinking. If the lights knew someone was leaving, did that mean they also knew who wanted to? Because wanting out was one thing the park had more of than anything else. Every trailer held its own version of that wish. Some wanted to leave debt. Some wanted to leave an ex. Some wanted to leave boredom or shame or the way people in town looked at them when they said where they lived. Nina wanted to leave the feeling that every month was a cliff she had to climb with her teeth. Her porch light stayed dark for a week. She checked the breaker. She checked the bulb. She checked the tiny bit of wire she could see without opening anything dangerous. Everything looked the same as always. One evening she came home from work with a sack of discount groceries and saw a shape by her steps. The fox. It was closer than she had ever seen it, right at the bottom of her stairs. Small body, narrow legs, red fur darkened by the half-light. Its tail lay along the gravel like a lazy brushstroke. Its eyes were bright and still. For a moment, nobody moved. Nina froze on the top step. The grocery bag dug into her fingers. Somewhere behind her, the fridge hummed. The fox looked up at her, then past her to the dead bulb above the door. Then, without hurry, it stood, trotted 3 steps to the side, and sat down in front of number 10 instead. Nina let out a breath she had not known she was holding. It shook on the way out. She told herself it was because of the animal, not because of the stories circling in her head. Behind the thin wall of number 10, a man and a woman were arguing in low, sharp voices. They did that most nights. Everyone heard it. Everyone pretended not to. 2 days later, a sheriff's car pulled up. There was a lot of talking on the steps, some crying. A few bags were tossed into the back of a pickup. By the end of the week, number 10's porch light was dark, and a notice was taped to its door. The fox went back to the cinder blocks. Nina lay awake that night with every light inside her trailer on. Stove light, bathroom light, the little lamp on the counter. Jamie slept through it. She stared at the ceiling and thought about patterns. Maybe it was all in people's heads. They noticed dark when they were already worried. They saw the fox where there was only movement. They built a story from random pieces. Her gut did not agree. She knew how it felt when the world started to push. When she was 19, she had thought she would never leave her old apartment. It was small and noisy and smelled of other people's cooking. But it was hers. Until one day, The landlord sold the building to someone who wanted new tiles and higher rent. The first hint had not been a letter. It had been the way the lights in the hall began to flicker. She still remembered that feeling of being nudged toward the door by something bigger and colder than herself. When the power company sent a warning about her overdue bill, Nina stared at the thin paper over the sink. She had been careful. She had made charts and envelopes. She had cut coupons and skipped meals. She thought she had stayed ahead. Then the gas went up. Then Jamie's sneakers split. Then the car needed a new belt. Each problem had seemed small alone. Together, they had pushed her backward. If she did not make a payment in 10 days, the letter said, service could be disconnected. She looked at the dead porch light. She looked at her sleeping son. The park at night had its own sound. Distant television hiss, a dog barking down the road, the occasional clink of glass. Out beyond the fence, frogs called in the ditch. Nina sat at the small kitchen table with her old calculator and a stack of bills, and she added and subtracted until the numbers blurred. She could stay, for a while, if she paid some of this and not that, if nothing else broke, if no one got sick, if her hours at the store did not get cut again. She could also leave. She had a sister 2 towns over who kept telling her there was space on her couch until she got on her feet. There were jobs there too, not great ones, but real. The bus went that way twice a day. The idea of moving into someone else's space made her stomach twist. So did the idea of another notice on another door. When she finally went to bed, her mind had not decided. The next evening when she came home, her porch light was on. Not flickering, not dim, solid. A clear, steady circle of yellow over the steps. Nina stopped in the road. For a second, she thought she had the wrong trailer. She had never seen that bulb look so confident. Jamie came out to meet her, school papers in his hand, eyes bright. He said the manager had sent an electrician by. He said it had been a quick fix. He said the man had joked the light had been wired, stupider than a broken microwave, and now it was all good. Nina listened, nodded, and smiled in the right places. Inside, something small and tight unclenched. The light had come back. Maybe that meant she got to stay. Maybe the story only worked one way. Dark meant leaving. Bright meant safe. That night, the fox sat under the laundry room and watched number 9's light burn gold against the dark. It also watched Nina's car. It watched how long it stayed. Some patterns are about bulbs. Some are about wheels. For the next week, Nina noticed 2 things. First, her porch light stayed perfectly steady. It did not hum. It did not flicker. It came on at dusk and went off after dawn. It put the old lights on the other trailers to shame. Second, her car whispered. It whispered in the way the engine ticked after she turned it off. It whispered in the way it caught her eye in the parking lot at work. It whispered every time she passed the bus stop near the front of the park and watched people climb on with suitcases. Her sister called. Her voice crackled over the cheap line. She said she had talked to someone at the diner by the highway near her house. They needed an extra set of hands. It was not glamorous, but it was steady. They paid every Friday. "How long are you going to let that place chew you up?" her sister asked. Nina did not have an answer. She hung up, went outside, and sat on her steps under the bright fixed light. The fox watched from the shadows. From where it sat, it could see the whole row. It could see which doors had scuffed paint and which had fresh. It could see where cardboard was stacked inside a screen, waiting to become boxes. It could see where kids were growing faster than their shoes. It did not care about human plans. It cared about routes, paths, the way bodies moved. It cared about where people's eyes lingered. Nina's eyes lingered on the road out of the park. The next morning, she saw the fox close for the second time. It stood in the middle of the gravel road as she backed her car out. Sunlight caught its fur, turning it almost copper. Its tail flicked once. She braked. For a heartbeat, they faced each other. Woman in a car, fox in the open, trailer doors on both sides, the gate to the street behind. Then the fox stepped aside. Not back toward the field. Forward, toward the gate. It padded up the road a few meters, stopped, and looked back. Nina told herself she was ridiculous. She told herself it was just an animal. She told herself it was not waiting for her. The fox turned its head toward the street again and walked on. The gate at the front of the park was a simple metal frame, the kind that could hold a chain and lock if someone felt like closing it at night, which they never did. The fox passed through and trotted toward the ditch. Nina's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The old feeling rose up, the one she had tried to ignore. The sense that something larger than her, not kind but not cruel, was arranging small things around her, a fixed light, a phone call, a space on a couch, a fox on a road. She could stay and wait for the next warning letter, the next flicker, the next push. Or she could move while it was still her idea. She did something she hadn't done in a long time. She changed the path herself. Instead of turning toward the grocery store, she turned toward the center of town, to the bus station with the peeling paint and plastic chairs bolted to the floor. Jamie did not have school that day. She had checked. Her sister had said the couch was waiting. At the ticket window, her hands shook as she slid the worn bills under the glass. The clerk did not ask why she was leaving. People with bags were always leaving from this window. It was not special. On the board above the counter, the town name where her sister lived glowed in green letters, a thin line between two dots. Once she might have stared at that board, the way men in the park stared at the scoreboard on old nights, thinking everything important in their life lived in those numbers. Now, it was just a direction. She rode the bus back to the park with 2 tickets in her hand, one for her, one for her son. Her porch light was still on when she pulled in. She looked at it as she climbed out of the car. Bright, solid, untroubled. It made the peeling paint of the trailer look almost warm. She went inside, woke Jamie gently, and told him they were going on a trip. For a few minutes, he was confused. Then he woke up enough to be excited. When she stepped out again with their bags, she glanced at the laundry room. The fox sat in its usual place, tail curled around its feet. It tilted its head once, like a question, and then looked past her at the bus stop near the front of the park. Nina did not say goodbye to anyone. She had done that too many times at other points in her life, and had learned that drawn-out endings did not make leaving easier. They just made it slower. She locked her door out of habit, even though it did not matter, and walked down the gravel road with her son's hand in hers. The porch lights watched. Some flickered, some glowed steady, some had burned out long ago. Each doorway held its own story about who would stay and who would go. As she passed number 9, her own porch light did something strange. It brightened. Just for a moment, the bulb flared, sending a stronger circle of light across the steps. Then, as if a switch had been thrown somewhere far away, it went out. Cleanly. Completely. Jamie looked back at it. He asked if the power had gone out. Nina said no. She said it was just time. They reached the gate. The bus rolled up, late and squealing. The driver checked their tickets, nodded them on. From the back window, as the bus pulled away, Nina saw the curve of the park road, the 2 rows of trailers, the line of porch lights in different states of life. One dark square marked number 9. Near the laundry room, a small red shape sat still as stone. As the bus turned, the fox trotted toward the field again, route complete for now. People in the park talked about Nina for a while. Some said she was brave. Some said she was foolish. Some said it was only a matter of time before she came back, like others had. They said less about the light. They did notice something, though, that they only mentioned later. After Ruth and Curtis and the couple in number 10, after the man with the sheriff at his door, after the long, slow train of people who had been pushed out or carried out, the pattern shifted. The next time a porch light went dark and stayed dark, it was because someone had turned it off on purpose. Because they had found a job. Because they had a cousin's spare room. Because they had finally believed that what they wanted mattered as much as what they feared. The fox kept watching. It watched the trailers that emptied in a rush and the ones that emptied gently. It watched people carry boxes alone and people carry them with friends. It watched porch lights blink and die and be replaced. It did not start or stop any of it. It was only there, at the edge of things, like a witness the world had hired without asking. On some evenings, someone would sit on their steps and see it in the half-dark, just beyond the last porch light. They would feel, for a second, like they were being measured, not judged, exactly, weighed. Whether they stayed or went was still their choice. But it felt different, knowing that something had seen them think about it. In time, the story of the fox and the porch lights changed shape. It was no longer just, the lights know who is leaving. It became, quietly, the lights know who is ready. And in a small park, on the edge of a small town, where people had once believed leaving only ever happened to other people, that shift, a fox, a bulb, a gate, a bus ticket, was as large as any miracle.